Hey YouTube, welcome to The Fourth Wall, and today we're going to be doing an in-depth review of Joker. Now, this is a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the movie, don't watch the rest of this video. We do have a spoiler-free review on our channel, so feel free to watch that if you'd like. I'm joined with my friends Mason and Danny, and today we're going to be keeping it real. So guys, what were your initial reactions when you heard that they were making a Joker movie?
When I first heard that they were going to make a Joker movie, I was a little hesitant at first, but I saw like a lot of potential there. I think he's an interesting character because we don't know much about his backstory, or we know too much about his backstory. Like there are too many like versions of his backstory. So I was really interested to see the direction.
Right.
One of my gut instincts, though, when I first heard about it, was I going to be missing Batman in this movie? Because of the iconic relationship between the two of them, the polar opposites, and kind of the balance that they create. I was wondering if a movie without a Batman would work. So that was kind of the initial takeaway.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Like, when I heard they were doing a solo Joker movie, I was really hesitant because with DC's track record with their films kind of had me skeptical.
Yeah.
And especially about Joker, because the thing about Joker is he does not have an identity.
Yeah.
So to give him a name and a character, I was really skeptical, but it turned out a hit.
Yeah.
When I heard that they were making this movie, I was actually very excited. I thought it was a cool idea especially because I really didn't like the direction that DC was going in, which is, to clarify, like my own personal taste, I actually kind of like on an individual level like a lot of the movies they were making. I just thought they were really trying to ape what Marvel was doing.
I agree. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when they're just like, okay, Justice League tanked. I don't even think it was that bad, but it was thoroughly kind of like, here you go, and they rushed it out,
like there.
And they were pushing it, and they had the Suicide Squad and Jared Leto, which was right. And you know what, Jared Leto's a great actor, he was given, like, it was written in such a way and directed in such a way that I'm like, you're gonna go with Pimp Joker, and I didn't dig it.
I never did either.
Right. So when I heard they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna basically they're gonna replace like Zack Snyder as the guru for DC. Yeah. They're going to revamp everything. They're going to go in different directions. They're going to try to make it more light, more levity, and just go more bug nuts. Yeah. I'm like, good, because what you were doing wasn't working. Right. Yeah. As a whole, like you were making money still, but people were not excited for your movies. Yeah. So when I heard they're like, oh yeah. Originally, when I heard about it, it was going to be like Martin Scorsese produced, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah, that's like how the project started, or something to that effect. And I'm like, okay, show me what you got, man, because I was really open to it. I'm like, I want you to do something different than what is already being done by someone else, and being done better. Yeah. So that was why I was just like, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to bring it on. So.
Right. Now, the director of this film is Todd Phillips, who we know has done a lot more comedies, such as The Hangover and, War Dogs is kind of a comedy, but what are your thoughts on him being the director of this movie and how it came out under his direction?
When I first heard his name, obviously I attached him with The Hangover, and I was like, what are we getting? Like, what is he going to be bringing? Exactly. And I actually thought the comedic themes in this movie that you can tell that he understands comedies. And I think the way that he twisted some of those in a way that if you did laugh, it was because you were like really uncomfortable. And so I thought initially I was thinking, I don't know if he was the right choice, but I think what he brought to the film actually added a lot to it.
Agree. Yeah, I totally agree.
I think that he was a decent enough choice. Specifically, like, I don't know. I wanted not to like go too big of a tangent. Yeah. Like, I think him as a person is kind of a jerk. Every quote that I've heard from him, I'm like, oh, you're a mean, bad person. Like, he was talking about, he's like, you can't make comedies anymore because you're just going to offend people, so I'm not going to make comedies. I'm like, oh, come on, maybe you're just not very good at it. Yeah. That said, I think that like the Hangover films are dark comedies with these hints of action, and I'm like, that is what you want for a Joker movie. What I think of him, like on a personal level aside, I think his talents are probably lent pretty well to this sort of project.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I think after proving himself with this movie, he can do a lot, and that's the thing with most directors. And that's the thing with most directors too, is like when they do a certain amount of movies that are under a certain type of genre, and then they're like, oh, we're doing a new movie with this director who is not usually done this sort of film. It's like, well, I'm a little skeptical, but I think every director has a chance to give different genres a taste, and who knows, maybe this one could be better than their other one.
You know, that's a... Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was just thinking that, like, if there is anything to take from the Marvel films, it is that. Because what they're doing is they're throwing out, like, these people who have done very successfully in, like, indie films, like Taika Waititi, and James Gunn. Like, that guy got started in Troma doing just, like, really, like, Z-level horror films, and then they give him Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's one of the best films I've ever seen from the whole genre. So I think if there's anything, like, give a shot to these people who are like, you can tell that there's these seeds of good direction, and here's a bunch of money and a property. What are you going to do with it? And I think that's great.
I was thinking the same thing where, like, a lot of directors who are traditionally, like, in another genre have been given, like, a larger budget. I guess all the ones I can think of are, like, comic book properties that they then run with. And I think both... directors of horror films and directors of comedy have to understand the importance of timing and the importance of, like, tension and release, and in very different ways with very different outcomes. But I think there's they both have an understanding of story and character and what you can do with that. That I think this movie was a little bit of, like. Okay, it was a lot of it was pretty scary. I was pretty uncomfortable the entire time I was watching it. But I think there's definitely a level where their understanding of the craft and how to use certain shots and things like that. I think his experience definitely lent well to the production. Yeah,
going off the topic of comic book films. Do you consider this movie a comic book type movie? For me personally, I do not, because I look at this movie as a character study. Yeah. Because with this movie, it has the name Joker, Thomas, Bruce, Martha, Wayne, and a few other characters I'm thinking of, but I can't think of specifically. They're in the movie, but they don't play their role of their comic book role. They don't play that like they do in this movie. So, I look at this as a character study. Like, we see what kind of things make a man turn to be the man like the Joker is. Sure. Yeah. So
that's a good question. And I don't. Let's see. So. Yes. So I can. I think I can see both sides. Where if you say yes, this is comic book where it's based on comic book characters and properties and mythos. But I also see your point that this is a character study. This is not like any other comic book movie that has been made. Like, in many ways, there's no hero probably, or not yet. But and the classic comic book tropes that they say now we're so inundated with a barrage of comic book movies, we still go to see them because we love those kinds of movies.
Yeah, and we love the comics themselves.
Yeah, and we love the properties and where they come from, where the characters go. So I see this very much as like a prequel, or very much like set aside. I think this is almost like its own subgenre, and I don't know exactly where to put it.
Right.
So, what was the question one more time? Just hit me again.
No, I didn't answer it.
So, do you see Joker as a comic book movie?
Oh, absolutely it is. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But here's the thing, like, I feel like it is a comic book movie in so much as that we need to broaden our scope of what we consider, because it is based on a comic book. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Is it a superhero film? No. It is not a superhero film, right? But the same way that I consider back when they made The Dark Knight, they said, this is a superhero movie, it's a Batman movie, but it's really a movie about Gotham City. It's a movie about crime. It's almost like a mafia movie, but Batman is there. Yeah. That is sort of this one. Is like, this is a social commentary / satire in which the Joker is the central figure. It is a movie about how society makes a monster. Yeah. And it happens to be that the monster that it makes is the Joker. Now, how I feel about that, I'm going to save till later. But that said... I do think that it fits into that general kind of construct of like, yeah, it's a comic book movie, but that doesn't inform necessarily what kind of movie it is. I just watched I saw a movie a long time ago called Ghost World, that is a indie comedy. Yeah. Based on a comic book. It's a comic book movie. Yeah. But no, there's no superheroes, there's no capes. It stars Thor, Birch, and Steve Buscemi. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, that's a good way, because there's so many movies that are comic book movies, but that like I'm always amazed by how many movies there are that are considered comic book movies, but are not like superhero, classic, Marvel, DC, even Dark Horse or Variant.
I feel like it took a long time for us to get to a point where people are saying like, it used to be, oh, well, it's a comic book movie. Comics are for kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, no, some of them are. And some of them are not, right? Like if you read some Batman comics from the 60s, it's all chum and smiles. And, and then you get to the 80s and it's Frank Miller, and all of a sudden it's Dark Knight Returns, and it's Batman on top of a building with a sniper rifle, and it's dark. And it has a lot of things to say, whether or not it's right or wrong. It's not for kids. Kids would be bored by it probably, or disturbed.
And see, one thing I like about this too is like, this is also why I don't consider it a full comic book movie, is that it's not based on any like one comic. Todd Phillips did take direction from Dark Knight Returns because of the ending with the talk show. And he also took inspiration from The Killing Joke. He didn't go full into The Killing Joke, but he did the idea of, a failed comedian trying to make it in the world, and something pushed him to become a monster. Now, going on to the Joker, Joaquin Phoenix casting as the Joker. A lot of people were on board with it the first time he was announced. What are your thoughts on that?
Joaquin Phoenix cast as a sad, crazy person? No, that seems completely outside of his wheelhouse.
It's not the first time.
He finally gets to stretch his wings, let me tell you. No, if you've seen anything Joaquin Phoenix, he always plays. I don't mean always. He's really good at playing people who are unhinged and right under the surface are ready to break.
That's very true.
Like I've heard this would be an interesting double feature with, what is it called? You Were Never Really There.
You Were Never Really There.
Right. Where he's this. And it's interesting to me because he actually he put on weight and was like this big. Refrigerator man. Of like this hitman character with this big beard, and he's totally broken. And then in this one, he loses like 60 pounds, and he's this frail thing of a guy who is totally broken. Wow. Different things, but like
both very intimidating by the end.
Right.
Well, I don't know about the
But he's intimidating throughout the whole thing, and the other one.
Oh yeah.
But this is, I feel like, if there was a big softball to toss to Joaquin Phoenix, this would be it. Although I'm not saying he didn't phone it in. He went method with this thing. He really he did he put on the tics and the laugh and all that. I got nothing bad to say about his performance.
So getting back to the lag, there's actually a real disorder, pseudo-Bublar effect, I believe it's called. It's a condition where you laugh uncontrollably when you are stressed out. And he actually studied people with that condition. He didn't mean to, offend them. He wanted to actually give them like justice, like give them like
the spotlight. To be like, there are people with this. That's very serious.
With that in mind as well, would you say, where would you put him on the lists of the live action Jokers between like Ledger, Nicholson, and Leto?
You know what? Now we're going to enter into my opinion of the thing. I think that as a performance, it is top notch. I think that as presenting the Joker as a character, I don't feel like it was actually much of a Joker character.
Okay.
I honestly don't. I feel like if you would have taken the name Joker out of it and called the movie Clown or something, it wouldn't have hurt the story one bit. Like by the end of the movie, and he's putting the makeup on, I'm like, okay, this is all well and good. But to me, this wasn't the Joker, because this is a very broken, sad character. As the Joker, as it has been presented from day one, he has a glee to him that Arthur Fleck does not have in the whole movie. And going back a little bit to the laugh, like I heard, it was a quote from an interview with the director, or maybe it was Joaquin Phoenix, I don't remember, talking about the laugh and how he said that he has 3 distinct laughs. And throughout the movie, and one is the uncontrollable laugh because of his psychological disorder. The other is the laugh because he is maybe on the spectrum or something. He doesn't quite get social norms. So when he sees people laugh, he'll kind of
It's like in the scene where he's watching the stand-up comedian and he's watching other people laugh to see what do they think is funny. He writes down, and then he's like that's such an unsettling scene where he's not looking at the comedian, he's looking around to see when people laugh, and then he laughs like after they laugh, and nobody notices.
So he has, like I said, psychosis laugh. He has the I'm trying to fit in laugh. And then one time in the movie, once at the very end, he has I find that funny laugh, and it's literally one laugh in the entire movie. That's a good point. Yeah. The Joker as a character, and again, I'm not saying every interpretation has to be identical, but there are little bits, little nuggets of support that I feel like are missing.
Yeah, there's always something the Joker that each actor has to bring.
And this isn't necessarily his performance, because I think he took what he was given and ran with it. But the Joker, it is presumed, if you were to follow through with this, which I know the timeline doesn't quite add up, but if you were to follow through with it, this is someone who is supposed to go mano a mano, toe to toe with, quote unquote, the greatest detective in the world, which is Batman. Arthur Fleck isn't that guy. If you were to consider him like physically, mentally, if you consider like here's a Batman coming at him, he's just going to get knocked over, and he's not going to be the greatest supervillain of all time.
I would agree. I would, and actually, I heard in an interview someone mentioned that this was maybe not the Joker, but like a Joker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard.
And I kind of like that, as in maybe this is the guy who inspires another Joker later on, who is that character.
Yeah, I've heard that before too.
Yeah, either that or this is just the beginning, and there is more growth to his character as he becomes more like that. But he's definitely not. I mean, we've seen how cunning and quick the Joker can be in keeping up, in keeping always one step ahead of Batman. And I would agree that's not who this character is. At least not now, and maybe not ever.
Though there are good hints that this may be, because of at the very end when when the city's on fire, and he's in the cop car and someone rams into him and they take him out. They put him on the hood, and then he gets back up, and then he's bleeding, but then he does the iconic Joker smile of blood, and then also that's one of the things, because the Joker is like, for a frail little man, he can take a lot of damage. And but back to what you're saying about Joaquin versus everyone else. Yeah, I totally agree. Like, when I think of the Joker, I don't think of Joaquin's Joker. For me personally, I think Ledger's still my favorite, just because
I would agree.
In one of the videos I've done, I was told that like The Dark Knight is one of my favorite comic book movies, because while it's not a comic book movie, it's what I would imagine a real life comic book. Like, if you took the Batman and the Joker and put them in our world, put them in New York, that is what I would think of, because they're not going to be able to do their their comic book shticks, but they're more of their, I guess, animated personas in real life. And I would agree. And actually, Joaquin Phoenix's his portrayal of the Joker, or of this character throughout the movie, and I felt this right from the moment I sat down, or from the moment the movie started to it ended. I felt that same knot in my stomach as I did when I watched Heath Ledger's Joker. Right.
Like, every time Heath Ledger was on the screen, I was just like, I do not know what's going to happen, and I was like, watching through my hands, and I had that feeling through this entire movie. Every time that he was on screen, which was the entire movie, I had this kind of sense of like, I don't know what he's going to do, and that terrifies me because I know what he's capable of. And so in some ways, I almost equate. I think it was a very different performance from Heath Ledger's, but that was a similar feeling, a similar sense that I got, which I think even from Jack Nicholson's, his is a very different Joker. Yeah. His would be a little more of the cartoony, or the and not necessarily that far, but that sort of vibe or approach to it, which I think for that movie works really well.
Oh, I think Nicholson, he took what I think sort of what Cesar Romero was doing in the 60s, and he's just like, we're going to make this, but we're going to make him more psychotic, and we're going to make him bring him into at the time it was late 80s, but bring him into like a PG-13 movie for for more adult kind of thing. So he's like, he's going to have the same kind of like absurdist sense of humor, but he's going to be murderous. Whereas Cesar Romero back in the Adam West show was more just like, woo-hoo-hoo.
He was cartoon.
He was the living embodiment of a cartoon.
Right. So I feel like, and I feel like, so I really like both Ledger and Nicholson on a similar level, but very different. Like one, like Heath Ledger, they say like this is a Joker that could exist in terms of, I mean, his plan is out there, but like as a character, like he puts on the makeup, he's not like chemically dyed white, right? You can tell he's just a guy who put on this stuff and he's like, I'm gonna be someone that you remember. Whereas Nicholson's, he's like, I'm out of a comic book, and here we go, and it's great. You know, way to get a load of me. It's great.
Yeah.
And see what the thing with again with Joaquin is his is like we were talking about, like Nicholson's more of the comic, Joker's more of like the comic book was thrown into the real world. But what I love about
Ledger,
Ledger, thank you. What I love about Joaquin is it's more mental illness, which is a really big thing to play with, because in the movie, society just dumps on the lesser people in the world, and like in the movie, he's like, "Oh, are you doing this for a movement? Are you trying to start something?" He's like, "No, I'm not the kind. Do I look like I'm political to you, Murray?" Which I love that, and I do love how they play with mental illness, because in the movie, and this is a good like Joker Easter egg. With Arthur being psychotic, like there are a lot of things that are happening on screen, but then you find out they were not real. Like Zazie Beetz' character as the neighbor who he has a crush on.
Initially, when something started happening between their characters and that scene where he like rushes in and kisses her, I'm like, oh, okay.
I guess this is happening.
Yeah, I was like, that seemed very sudden, but I was like, okay. And then they like kept rolling with it, and I was like, okay, that seemed so sudden, and like, where's her daughter? And like, they're not talking about this kind of stuff. And then I was like, okay, well maybe that worked out. And then I was like, and as soon as he was in her apartment, I was like, oh no.
She was she was written so thinly and one-dimensionally that I'm like, well, this is bad writing. And then they pulled the twist, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
That's why she was one-dimensional.
It was just like it's because it was in his head. Right. And I as a general rule, like that was the one thing I didn't mind, that they pulled that his relationship with her was not real. But what it gets under my skin. I heard there's a lot of fan theories and things about how it all could be fake. Like, what's real?
Is it the ending?
I hate that.
I do too.
Yeah, because I've heard I've heard like mixed reviews about it, and that's like a big part of it was the ending, because it's more because. Another thing that Todd Phillips took inspiration from was Scorsese himself, but also the King of Comedy. Which if you watch that movie and then you watch Joker, it's very similar, and it also has Robert De Niro in both.
It does. Playing the Night Show host, the comedy, the Jerry Lewis part essentially from King of Comedy.
And that's the thing about the ending of Joker. It's just like a lot of people lean to that it was real, but I'm one of the people that actually is. I mean, when I first saw it, I didn't think it was, because early in the movie when he's talking with his therapist, she mentions his time in Arkham, and he's banging his head against one of the cell doors, and I'm like, this must be that moment.
Oh, and he's okay.
Yeah, because then at the very end, he's with another psychiatrist. They're interviewing him, and he's sitting there, and he's talking about, oh, I have a joke. Are you going to tell me? Oh, you wouldn't get it.
Right.
But then again, the very ending when he's walking in the hall and there's allegedly blood footprints and everything.
See, that to me, I feel like that is a perfect metaphor for the film, and maybe not in a good way, because I feel like the whole movie is a big setup and there's not really a payoff.
Okay, I could.
And that's the thing, and like the payoff. I said, well, what now? What? Nah, you wouldn't get it. That's how I'm just like I'm sitting in the audience. I'm like, okay.
I wish. I agree with you, and I haven't really thought of it this way, but I wish that the movie had ended with him like surrounded by people, and then and then they kind of show him in Arkham, which obviously that's setting up connections for later, but I think I would have liked him to be out there somewhere.
Yeah, because it's also weird that like he's freed by these followers of his, and then he's doing his dance, and then all of a sudden he's being worshipped.
The next thing you know,
he's locked up. That's kind of a weird transition, because
I agree,
especially with the amount of people in clown masks, and then you do hear the sirens coming, obviously. But just the fact that you think all these policemen are gonna outmatch this entire mob of clowns.
Well, maybe the theory, and I haven't read up a whole bunch about the theory, but maybe the theory is that he's in the police car on the way to the asylum, and he fantasizes that it gets hit, and then he has this glorious moment where actually he's just taken straight to the asylum.
Okay.
And I've also heard a similar theory to another movie that gets. It's similar to another movie that gets compared quite a bit as Taxi Driver.
Yes, that's another one.
Where they're basically turning, and that's
also
the thing.
De Niro,
Also De Niro, also Scorsese. Like I said, Todd Phillips clearly has a hard on for Scorsese in this thing. Oh, you saw Mean Streets, fantastic, good for you. But I feel like, and I heard some people say like, oh yeah, well maybe he dies in the car, and then the rest of it's just a fever dream, kind of similar to what a lot of people say about the ending of Taxi Driver.
Okay.
Spoiler for Taxi Driver. But again, I'm of the person who's just like, I like to look at what a filmmaker gives you, not what you can make. If you look for something hard enough, you can find it. In any piece of work, you can. If you have a theory, you can probably take a piece of work and wrap it around that theory tight enough that to you it makes perfect sense. I like to look at what's on the screen.
There's stuff like that all over the internet.
Yes, yes,
and very interesting.
To me, that's the thing. To me, the movie is so vague and open-ended that I'm like, okay, there's not enough there for me. As a cohesive piece. I don't know if that's on the question here. I personally, to take it slightly on tangent, I wish that they would have taken all of the actual direct references to Batman out.
Right. Okay. Yes.
Okay. I feel like they had to halt the movie and crowbar in little baby Bruce Wayne into a scene, and it didn't have to be Thomas Wayne. Like, you could have just said it in Gotham if you're going to keep it Joker. It didn't have to be necessarily wrapped up in that, because I feel like every time you do that, it just pokes little holes in the movie for me. I'm like, no, man, not everyone has to know each other.
No, I understand where you're coming from. Yeah.
So on the subject of the Waynes and stuff, there's like in the movie, there's a point where Arthur sees a letter that's written by his mom saying that Thomas Wayne is Arthur's father.
Yeah.
He goes to confront him about it, and he's like, "Oh, your mother was insane. She adopted you, and she had a thing for me, but..."
Complete denial,
And then he's like, "No, you're lying to me, treat me like your son." And he's like, "You come near my family again, I will kill you." So then he goes to Arkham, finds that she actually she was a resident of Arkham, and he was adopted, and he was actually abused by not only his mother, but her boyfriend. So that's also where he gets the revelation that his laugh may not be a medical condition. It may just be something that he's not fully embracing. And well, what are your thoughts? I hear like a lot of people divided by it, and people are like, "Oh, he may be the father," and I'm like, I don't think that. I think it's just more of like adding more to the idea that everything in the world is trying to bring you down and stuff like that.
I think that he's just broken. I mean, for what the movie, like I said, I tend to take things at face value, and I feel like that the mother is just as broken as he is, and she was dealt a bad hand and tries to grab onto anything that she can, and she became obsessed with one person. And for me, like I said, he literally breaks into the hospital and steals his own file, and they're like, "Here's the adoption papers. Here's the paper trail that says no, he was adopted, and here's the thing. Here's what happened."
But and even I think the movie even gives evidence that she was delusional about this, because he was delusional about his relationship with his neighbor. So I think in much the same way, I think you could easily argue that that's the sort of relationship that she thought she had, and she believed it. It was like true to her.
Sure.
It was her like perception.
Yeah, I like that. That's really interesting.
But there is one thing that makes me question all of that.
The picture? Is it the picture?
Yeah, there's a picture, and I'm trying to remember what the picture was.
It was a picture of the young mother, and it said "You have a great smile."
Yeah, and then on the back it said TW, didn't it?
TW. It did say that.
Yeah,
which I think was put in there to make you go, oh wait,
it's another one of those things.
It's another one of those where they're supposed. It's the filmmaker going, huh? And I'm like, I don't care.
So
I'm an old man fuddy-duddy.
So I want to think about this. Just feed it to me. Yeah.
So one of the
don't get me wrong. I don't mind movies that make you think.
Right.
But if they don't have an answer,
that's a good point. Yeah. If there's
then the question is just sort of, well, here's an interesting question.
Right.
Okay.
It's a good way on the marketing side to get people talking about the movie, because then free advertising. Oh, have you seen? Oh, you haven't seen this? Well, you have to watch it again because then there was this. Yeah.
There are movies that exist that offer the question of, is something real or is it not? Right. You have Life of Pi. You have Pan's Labyrinth. Right. And the whole thing is metaphor of okay, you got fantasy world, you got the real world.
Yeah.
And the individual character, they don't ever give you the answer about it. They just say this is up for the protagonist to kind of pick their own reality.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think they're beautiful films, and I love them both. This one, on the other hand, it just feels like they themselves didn't have an answer, and they're just I don't know. It's the Joker. It's fine. And I'm like, it doesn't.
It's just a weak narrative choice.
To me, it's like I said. To me, it is a weak structure that is wrapped around a brilliant performance.
Yeah.
And performances. I don't think there's a weak actor in the movie.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, I felt like De Niro was a little out of his element.
Yeah.
He wasn't on screen much too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
but
he was playing very much out of like the traditional De Niro character.
He's not really known for his comic chops.
Yeah.
He's known for playing kind of heavies and tough guys, and I'm like, you're not a Conan O'Brien, man.
Yeah.
Or a Johnny Carson, as it will. Maybe.
I thought it was very interesting, the whole talk show side of the movie, where you see how some of the ways that we cope with some of these issues is that we like make fun and laugh and then distance ourselves from them. And I saw very much that in especially the final scene, but also just kind of throughout the this idea, this is like someone else, someone set apart, and then like him getting the offer, and then everything was like this is his chance, and then it's like treating them like it's something unobtainable, and this is like this is something almost I don't know if I want to say like on a god level, but like this is like his dream, and then the way that he's introduced and all these sorts of things is that he's a joke, and like no one will take him seriously, even the people that he respects enough. And he even you've seen fantasies of him on the show, and everybody claps for him, and he brings him down and says, "You're like a son to me," or whatever their interchanges, and even that just sort of sets up where his mind is going. And then I think you can see that he's living like these like happy delusions, because that's like how he gets day to day. And then once things start to change and he starts making decisions for himself, and then starts like he no longer lives in the fantasy, he wants to make the reality his fantasy, or in some way he's taking charge, and there's no going back. Yeah,
the talk show part is probably one of my favorite parts in the movie, because like throughout the movie, like you said, in the beginning when he's watching the show with his mom, he like envisions himself in the audience of the show, and he's like, he gets called down. He's like, I've never had a son, but if I could have one, to be like a hero. And then like later down the road, when he starts more breaking apart, like after his mom dies, he starts.
You say dies. He kills her.
She passes.
After he finds out that he was adopted, he's like, well, she had a heart attack, and then she goes in the hospital, but then he's in the hospital, he's like, listen, Mom, I used to think my life was a tragedy, but then as he's strangling her with a pillow, I realize now it's a comedy. But like after he does that, he starts, and then he gets called onto the show. So then that kind of changes everything, because then he starts stressing himself up more, and then he starts working on a routine when he enters, and then he's like, well, I got a great finale for you, and then he was intentionally he wanted to kill himself. I was like, oh no! But then that changed.
Stresses me out already just thinking about it.
But then you see a change when he actually goes on the show, and then instead he's like actually having a good time, and he's like being invested, and he's actually like, here, you want to hear some jokes? And then when he finally lets loose that society is awful to the people out there like me, and then when they start trying to be like defending their side, he goes off and then on everyone.
The one like I appreciate it, like on a level of social commentary. I can appreciate the movie, and whenever they touch on that, like I said, it's about society creating a monster, and the one. Like the one true line that he really says is he's like, you're feeling bad about these Wall Street guys that I killed on the subway, which by the way, he never, like to me, I'm like, this is a 5-minute conversation of being like, they were attacking me and I defended myself. Like literally, he only kills people in the movie, again, big whole spoiler, who he feels has wronged him. Right? Whether or not it's true or not, it can be up to interpretation.
And to be fair, he only killed a few people. He killed the 3 boys, and then he killed his mom because she lied to him.
She did chase down a couple people.
One guy.
Yeah, and then shot him,
he shot 2.
Like a
the
bunch
last
of times.
guy he murdered. Yes, the last guy was definitely like he chased him down after they all were like kicking him on the ground.
And then he killed the one guy he worked with who gave him the gun because it was his fault that he got fired.
Right. He feels he feels very wrong. He feels wronged by all the people on some level, and that's the ones he go after. So again, not very joke girly. Is that the Joker will kill people because it amuses him. This is I'm going to right some wrongs.
But then did he kill Sophie, Zazie Beetz' character?
That's another one of those cases.
Interpretation.
Yeah, it's another case
that's a
where...
No Country for Old Men moment there.
Yeah, it's another case where, because he walks in, sits on the couch, she's like, you're the guy from next door, right?
Yeah.
Are you okay? And he's like, I've had a bad day. Then she's like,
do you want me to call your mom?
And then he's like, my mom is dead.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, he's walking back into his apartment, and we don't know. And then you
hear sirens.
So again, it's another interpretation.
But anyway, I digress. I apologize.
Yeah.
One of the only true line that he really says is, he says, like, you feel bad for these guys.
Yeah.
If you found me dead on the street, you would walk over me. Right? And that's the thing, is like, he was invisible until he became sort of an unintentional face of this movement.
After he killed the Wall Street Boys.
Right. Which is weird to me, because he almost becomes an anti-hero, which is what they were swore, but now they're like, no, we're not making an anti-hero. He's the Joker.
Right.
But no, they're trying to make him at least somewhat sympathetic. Because they're showing, like, well, look at all the crap that he had to take. Like, man, it's no wonder that he does this stuff. Which, again, if the movie weren't called Joker, I could be all on board for.
Right.
And that brings up an interesting thought that I was thinking with the face paint. So even at the beginning of the movie, he starts the movie with face paint on as a clown dancing, or he's putting it on. And so there's a sense that he's distancing himself from this caricature of himself as that dancing and waving the sign, all this kind of stuff, and then who he really is. And then throughout the movie, he continues to kind of hide behind this mask and sees other people hiding behind it, and then notices that it's a strength. He's not hiding behind it. He becomes what. And then at the end, when he's got the blood on his lips and he makes the smile, that for me was like, whether that happened or not, was the him embracing the mask, and he's like, this is me. In the best, the best version that he's, that he's free for whatever that means.
That's a very Batman idea. And it's really that's why I feel like they are. I feel like the Joker as a character is one of the best of a rogues gallery, best comic book villain. And because it's so well paralleled up with Batman, whereas their true selves are Batman and the Joker. Their disguises is like Bruce Wayne and whoever the Joker isn't anymore. The Joker is who he is. Doesn't matter who he was.
Right, and so that's why it's so interesting and terrifying that a lot of times we don't know his backstory.
I prefer it. To me, I feel like that's one thing I love about the Dark Knight is that Heath Ledger basically pulls off what this movie does, but he does it in about 5 minutes of screen time talking about, you want to know where I got the scars. Because
each time it's a different...
Each time it's different. He does it twice, entirely different, and then there's a third time where he starts, and then he gets cut off, but you know it's going to be a completely different story. And I think, I don't necessarily need all of the backstory. And that's just... And that's an inherent thing. That's a me thing, because I think that it is an exception, not a rule. It's an exception to the rule when a prequel talking about, well, here's where all the iconic stuff came from actually works. In Solo, you want to know where Han Solo got these dice? Not really. You want to know where Indiana Jones got his hat? I don't care. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Occasionally a prequel will come along that I'm like, this is interesting.
If it actually adds some real meaning, or oh, but if it's just a ha ha ha,
It's more if you have a story to tell, not if you just we just want to tell you how all this stuff got placed in this room. I don't care.
Well, guys, I would love to keep going. There's so much more we could talk about, but so overall, what would you give Joker in terms of 1 out of 10 or something like that?
First of all, this was the kind of movie that I enjoyed for what it was. I don't know if I would want to watch it again because of just how uncomfortable I was. And I don't know if I really want to put myself through that again. I would probably give this a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10. I think for what it was going to be, I think they did a tremendous job. I can only imagine how hard it must have been for them to concentrate on a movie like this for a year and a half during production and all of that. But I think for the movie they gave us, I would say probably an 8 out of 10.
Okay, well, I would break up personally in me. If I were to give Joaquin Phoenix as a performance, I would give him probably 9.5 because all things out of everything, like I said, I wasn't thrilled with the movie, but I cannot take away from
he was the center point of it.
He was a in terms of acting, he was a craftsman, right? He put everything into it that you can expect and that and more. So out of that, the movie as a whole, I think that it's a little bit too derivative for my taste.
Okay.
I think that, and I will say, like, there's an old saying that, you know, good artists borrow and great artists steal.
Yeah.
He does steal whole hog. He's a talented director, Todd Phillips, and I think that it's a well-crafted film.
Sure.
But overall, my general enjoyment, it wasn't a fun film.
Yeah.
I didn't really, like, I walked out, I'm just like, okay, it's something I experienced. Yeah. So, all that being said, I'd maybe give it 6.5 unreliable narrators out of 10. That's where I would go with it. So.
Okay. So for me, I would probably have to say like 7.5 out of 8. I mean, because I really did like this because it's more, I don't want to say artsy type of film, but you can, and again, I don't like those types of films, but at least it had something that it could have offered me, you know?
Yeah.
So I'll give it like 7.5 or an 8 at the very least. Well, guys, thank you for keeping it real with me today.
Hey.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. We really would appreciate your support. If there are any movies you want to see reviews done, leave a comment and we'll try and do one. And we'll see you at the movies.